Hi. Today I'm going to tell you about the first deaf-blind person that I ever met in my whole entire life. Her name was Agnes. She was an old woman. Uh, Let me back up. So, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and Jehovah's Witnesses are encouraged to know different languages. So, there were various groups within our congregation that were learning ASL, Somali, Spanish, of course, French, uh, yeah, kind of the common languages in North Dakota, or whatever, Fargo. And so we would go canvassing, which is essentially talking to people, asking people, like, if you know any deaf people. It's kind of a strange thing to do, but Jehovah's Witnesses go canvassing, and then they find deaf people that way. And so, one person that we found was an old woman that lived in a nursing home in, what was the name of the city? It was it's a small town, probably like 45 minutes out of Fargo, and called Yulin, Yulin, North Dakota, or Minnesota. I don't know. It's Yulin, anyways. And so, Yulin. Oh yeah, and we found Agnes, who is this really sweet old woman, and uh, she was born deaf-blind, or so she told us. That's what she said. Um, the nurses weren't allowed to give us any information, so everything that we knew about her, we knew from her. She did have some other disabilities, I think, as far as physical disabilities and probably some sort of learning disability. Um, she would, my Bible instructor would teach her various things about God and stuff. And then the next week when we'd come back and see her, she would already forget. She would know. It might also just because she was pretty old. She was in her probably 60s or 70s. Probably 70s. Um, Anyways, she was really cool. She was very patient with me when she'd touch my hands and try to, and she would guess how old I am or how old everybody was, and we would fingerspell our names to her. I was probably 10 when this happened. Fingerspell our names. She would touch our faces, trying to see what we look like. If it was if she was touching a man's face, like an adult male, she would occasionally ask him to get in bed with her because she'd never experienced that before, I guess. She had never had sex, and she was just very blunt and told you what she wanted. So that was interesting about her. She would also try to guess colors even though she didn't know colors. So she would with the I was wearing a suit and tie, and she would feel my tie and try to guess the color based off of what it feels like. And she was never really right about it, but she would occasionally ask what colors were like. She really liked colors. I'm assuming she really liked colors because people her whole life have probably been trying to tell her about colors. She probably thinks that hearing and sighted people can talk about colors a lot when we really don't talk about colors that much. But I'm guessing that that's why she was probably kind of obsessed with colors. So that was my first experience with a deaf-blind person. Later on, when I was probably 17 or 18, I went to a huge convention of Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was for people that were deaf or hard of hearing, or interpreters, or interested in ASL. So ASL users. and there were about 10,000 people that went. It was in Newark, New Jersey, I think, and I met probably 8 or 9 more deaf-blind people. I got to communicate with one of them named Paul. He was really nice, I guess, very patient. He didn't have much to say. I felt really awkward because I was just learning ASL. And besides that, he was very, pretty much a normal person. He didn't know what to say. It does feel weird because when you're, I don't know, a teenager and you're like touching people's hands, like I was 17 or whatever, and I was touching this like 40-year-old man's hands because that's how he communicates. It like felt really weird, just touching another guy's hands. I don't know. That was probably the weirdest part about meeting deafblind people, is that it's so touchy all over your face and hands and everything. And they would ask things like, I remember he asked me where I was from. I told him I was from North Dakota. He said he'd been there before. He wasn't born deafblind. I think there was some traumatic incident with him that caused him to become deafblind. So, yeah, that's pretty much all of my experiences with deafblind people.